What's good, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm having a barbecue ribs mukbang from TGI Fridays, specifically a whiskey glazed barbecue ribs mukbang. Never had those before, so you just get the traditional ribs when I do get them. They came with some shrimp. I got those as well, and my favorite appetizer, onion rings. If you can do onion rings good, you're good with me. I love onion rings, so I got them there. I got some barbecue sauce for the onion rings, and I got some of this glaze that came with it. I'm gonna put that over the ribs right now. Also gonna use that to dip it in as well. Got my Sprite right here. So I'm gonna dig into these ribs. I'm gonna talk a little Scream, talk some 90s slashes. Right. Nothing like some good ribs, let me tell you. I'm sorry I missed y'all yesterday. I was not feeling my best and didn't really want to try to push myself and to talk about some Scream. That whiskey glaze, I can taste this whiskey glaze. So So let's talk Scream. Or else I'm just gonna plow through these ribs. I'm gonna forget all about it. So Scream kind of brought back the horror genre to the mainstream. Came out in 1996. It's got Kevin Williamson wrote the script, and Smart, or whoever was behind it, decided to get Wes Craven to direct it. Wes Craven did Nightmare on Elm Street, Hills Have Eyes, People Under the Stairs, Last House on the Left. He's a legend. In my mind, probably the best horror movie director ever when you go blow for blow. I could probably get some arguments from some other directors, but yeah, he's fantastic. Like the slashers of the 80s, Scream is a little bit different. It's never the same killer. If you've seen like the thumbnail, that's Ghostface. He's the killer in all of them. But I shouldn't even say he, because it's also been a woman as well. But that's the thing, you don't know who it is. That's part of the coolness of Scream. You don't know who the killer is, and you're finding out who the killer is with the characters in the movie. Scream is known for having, like, I call it like the core four of characters that are there throughout the franchise. And there's been times I think one of them is it. I don't want to give it away. And what's cool about Scream is it's very meta, meaning it knows it's a horror movie and it lets you know that it knows it's a horror movie. Like that you're watching a horror movie. It references a lot of horror stuff. And the main thing of Scream is you have Randy, who's my favorite character, played by Jamie Kennedy. And he's constantly reminding people, this is what you need to do to stay alive for a horror movie. Don't run upstairs. Don't answer the call. Why are you walking outside when somebody knocked on your door? All that little stuff. And it always comes into play, and he's always accurate with it. So yeah, you got a killer out there who's had this Ghostface costume. They could be there for revenge. They could be there for fame. They could be there for their own crazy motive. They could be a copycat killer. And within the Scream movies, a series of movies starts to get made called Stab. and they play on other stereotypes. Like in the second one, Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett start out the movie. Probably my favorite opening of any of the movies in the franchise. Scream is known for they have great openings. They don't waste any time cutting right to the chase. And that's what I want with a horror movie. I want a movie that's going to get right into it. And by the way, Scream is available on Netflix. 1 through 3. So yeah, you got your core 4. You have a mystery killer. You're trying to figure out who it is. You don't know. You're going along with the investigation. You got Gail Weathers, who's like the reporter journalist. She's kind of like I guess of today you would call her a blogger, but she was like a writer back then, journalist, all that. And over her, you got Dewey, who's the cop. He's played by David Arquette. And the final girl, so to speak, is Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell. The whole series starts off because of, it's all triggered based off of the killing of her mother a year before the first film starts. But yeah, I mean, it's just a fun ride. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's good fun horror. There's always some film nerds. There's always like a conversation about how violence in cinema can translate to violence in real life, and you know they have that conversation, which is a good conversation to have because it's reasonable. Doesn't affect it. And there's like a film class. You always got like a cinema club. So I love the involvement of film, and specifically horror films within the horror film. I love that type of stuff. But yeah, it's violent, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. You know what I mean? Well acted, great performance. And again, you have these same actors, so you have characters you can identify with, that you have a history with throughout the series. So that's a very cool part of it. I'm gonna try these shrimp in the barbecue sauce. I don't know how it's gonna work out, but all right. The movies came out between 96 and 2000, like the first 3. Then they waited 10 years, and then there was a 4th one. So as I mentioned, the setting changes. So in the first one, it's a small town and focuses on high school students. Then you got a college, then takes place on a college campus in the second one. Third one's on a movie set. Like I said, they start making movies based off of what's called the Woodsboro murders, which is in our world, in the audience's world, the Scream killings, you know what I mean? And so you got the movie set going on, so you got actors. There's a movie within a movie, and there's an investigation. I love it. And then the 4th one gets involved, and that, again, it's still along the same lines, but Sydney is 10 years older. She's removed from what happened before. I just enjoy it. It's a fun ride. If you have Netflix, Scream is a great franchise to watch, like on Halloween, before Halloween. I think it'll be a very good call. If I'm ranking the franchise, and full disclosure, there's not a weak link in the franchise, if you want my honest opinion. They're all pretty solid. The third one, in my opinion, is the weakest. Of all the movies, I think it has the weakest opening. And there's always an opening. Like I said, there's always like an opening scene to Scream. I think the third one has the weakest one, and then just kind of like who the killer is. Okay. It wasn't the best, but the story's still pretty good. It gets kind of campy a little bit. That's what I'm trying to say. And when I say campy, I mean like kind of cheesy a little bit. You know, you can smell it. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's still a good movie. It's still better than most slasher and other horror movies. The next one I'd probably put number 2. Again, I'm not the college campus setting. was good. My favorite character is big time in that, Randy. I don't know. You know what? Either 2 or 4. It could either go either place. I don't know. This is why I don't like ranking stuff. I don't know. So yeah, next I'll probably put 4. It's more modern. Again, the characters are more of my time. Like when Scream came out in '96, I was what, 9 or 10 years old, something like that. You know, I can't exactly identify with characters of that time. And one thing that's really cool, I just thought about, is how technology plays in. Cell phones were just starting to be a thing when the first one came out. So when the killer's making calls, you know, the cell phone's a big deal because not everybody has a cell phone. So it's weird how technology evolved. And then the most recent one, I think it was 2011 or 2012. And it was just, you know, everybody had one then. So it's kind of, Scream has evolved with technology from 90s till when the last one came out in 2012. But the legend, Wes Craven, and of course the first one is the best one in my opinion. It just is. I don't do that on purpose. I know that's kind of an unwritten rule. Is the first one is king, all the sequels are inferior, but in this case it happens to be true. There's a style to it. And there is, although it's fun and a thrill, there's some brutal stuff going on in Scream, and they don't really hide it. Now, getting into talking about that kind of gets into where, in my opinion, the only weak spot, well, one of the weak spots of the franchise, is the style of the kills. Ghostface just has a knife. That's it. Nothing fancy. He runs. He chases you. Doesn't, you know, he talks to him. He has some personality, but those finishing scenes, around 2 and 3, they get lackluster. The opening on the first one is fantastic, and there's some great ones in the fourth one, which I'm glad. I think it has to have something to do with Wes Craven getting back involved. But yes, 2 and 3, they were kind of weak. That's why those are kind of like in my bottom half of the franchise, I think. Love me some good onion rings, I'll tell you that. Try this shrimp in this. Mix up the sauces, man, who cares? Yeah, guys, we got a few more days left in October. I thank y'all for joining me this month. It has been a blast. I love it. Once we get into November, I'm just gonna, I'll still throw in some reviews, but I'm gonna be getting back to some more, I wouldn't say traditional mukbangs. I'm gonna get some story times involved. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to mix it up. Take suggestions. You guys have any ideas? I'm open. yeah, guys, we got a few more requests to close out October. And again, if you have requested a movie, I have noted down, and I definitely will get to it. Again, it might take a little bit longer, based off I'm not going to be doing reviews every day after October's out. Guys, thank you very much for joining me today for this ribs mukbang. It was absolutely delicious. I probably should have got a full rack. I could have cleared another half a rack, but all good. I'm full. Onion rings were good. TGI Fridays has like middle of the ground onion rings, if you ask me. They're good, but they're not the best. Sonic is underrated when it comes to onion rings, as well as Arby's, and Burger King actually has some pretty good onion rings as well. That's a good question right there. Let me know what your favorite onion rings are. You know what I mean? Throw that in there. I love onion rings. Maybe there's some onion rings I haven't had. But guys, thank you for joining me today for this mukbang and hearing my thoughts on Scream. Check it out on Netflix if you have it. Great fun ride. You can watch. I thought all 4 were on there, but just the first 3. What are you gonna do? Excuse me. But I will see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, take care and be well, and have a great and happy Friday.